Here we go. We're going to go around the hoop with the Knickerbockers. Oh, there's passes. Schmitty passes it to Wilson. Wilson passes it to Thompson. Thompson back, and it's another layup. And here they go. Them boys are really, it's 15-17 in the third quarter.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, and want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
So, Gene, tonight's film was selected as part of the Shat Fantasy League for the NFL season last year. And for our listeners who don't know, yes, Shat the Movies, Shat on TV, we do podcasts about film, TV, but it goes way beyond that. You've become big into streaming and playing video games with our community. Our community reaches into Discord. And this film tonight was the prize for our great listener, Steven, who won fantasy football last year. So tonight's film is Redemption, Rebounds, and Rural Indiana, where a second chance needs a full court press. And the math is, think Friday Night Lights plus Dead Poet Society times White Men Can't Jump with heart, it equals tonight's film. For Stephen J., fantasy football winner, it is the 1986 sports drama Hoosiers.
And Shat the Movies fantasy football champion Stephen J. wrote in and said, "Hey guys, I'm a longtime listener and enjoyer of your podcast, and I'm back with another commission after narrowly defeating Hot Sauce Steve in this year's Fantasy Football League's championship game. If you may recall, I last won the league in 2020 and ended up commissioning the classic football movie Rudy." Oh, this checks out. For this league's commission, I again wanted to pick noticeably absent sports movies for your pantheon. I ultimately landed on the 1986 Gene Hackman classic, Hoosiers. Like Rudy, Rocky, Breaking Away, and countless others, I'm a sucker for a good old-fashioned underdog movie, and Hoosiers is certainly an underrated gem from the 1980s that plays this trope well. I've seen it well over a dozen times, and it always puts me in a good mood. The cast is amazing and is led by Oscar-worthy performances from both Hackman and Dennis Hopper. The cinematography, directing, and one of Jerry Goldsmith's best soundtracks all work for me. Yes, it's cheesy, follows a little too close to the sports underdog formula at times, and plays a little loose with the true facts of the 1954 Milan High School team from which it took its inspiration. But I don't care, and I'll admit it gets me every time. It is easily a top 5 sports movie of all time for me, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it upon a fresh viewing. Thanks as always for the podcast, and thanks to Hot Sauce Steve for commissioning the Fantasy Football League once again. Sincerely, Stephen J.
So Steven's worrying me a little bit here. He said they play a little loose with the history, and that this is top 5. I mean, Steven, I respect you. I can't talk shit. My fantasy teams suck across the board. I'm awful. You're out of bounds on this.
I will always offer the lesson that we got from Tombstone versus Wyatt Earp. Sometimes playing close to the facts doesn't make for a better movie. I'm okay with Fast and Loose. I'm here for a movie. I'm not here for a documentary. I'm with you, Stephen J. As far as following really close to the sports underdog formula, oh boy, I got a lot to say about that.
You see, but here's the problem. I think people, when you say based on a true story, people don't realize how far off this is. I always thought this is a true story. This is basically, we've changed the names to protect those involved. No, this is fucking Hollywood that's piggybacked onto a feel-good story and turned it into something that was not nearly true.
It is true. Different era in the 80s. For those of you who weren't around back then, you saw a movie and you went and you told your friends that was the gospel truth. Like, that is what happened. Oh, did you know that this and this? Because we didn't have like the internet to check on that fact. If they told me there was a coach that did college basketball in New York and punched a kid and went to Indiana and won a championship, spoiler alert, I'd believe you, because I had no way at my local library or from my mom or an Encyclopedia Britannica to verify that fact.
And Gene, I can prove that fact. We had heard a rumor, my friend Rob and I, that Cindy Crawford had one time done Playboy. She was a supermodel, big time at that point. She was doing national commercials. She was on all this, the Sports Illustrated. She was the big thing. Him and I went to New York City. We took the train, went to the museum, downtown Manhattan, the one right behind Bryant Park. We went into the basement, found the microfiche of the issue of Playboy she was in, just to verify she was in. And we both sat there and looked at the negative image of her issue. That's how the 80s and 90s were. Ideas and facts didn't matter, but word of mouth made you think it was possible.
Well, Big D, March Madness is very big in Arizona. People come out from all over the place. My friends will go to the local resort casinos, sit by the pool, get rooms, hang out in the bar, bet on the games, watch every single game. It's huge here. And every time March Madness rolls around, the drinks start flowing and people start bringing up Hoosiers as a legendary sports movie, not realizing that A, I'm not really that into March Madness as an annual celebration. I'm just there for the party. And B, I've never seen Hoosiers. I honestly thought going into this review, based on the name, that this movie was about some historical run that Indiana University pulled off. I had no idea it was about a high school team. I did know it had Gene Hackman, and that was about it.
Yeah, so I'm not a basketball fan. Even today, I don't watch the NBA. March Madness, I'm probably... What is it? You think I'm probably part of the 10% of the population that does not care? I couldn't tell you who the number one seeds are. I couldn't tell you who's won the last three. I'm ignorant to the entire sport.
Do you even fill out a bracket?
No, I couldn't even tell you last year who won. Again, basketball, not my thing. This film is in that little perfect Goldilocks zone of sports films where it is the nostalgia. It is maybe the 50s, the 60s. It's the natural. It's Raging Bull. It is, I'm trying to think of other films in that time frame, even The Sandlot, right? Where it tugs on that feeling of the good old days of sports. So I was excited to go back because I thought this was based on actual events. Turns out watching it again, this film wasn't what I remember. And I texted you earlier today. This might be the widest chasm of what a film is remembered as and what it actually is in the 450 plus films that we've done that I remember. The biggest difference in memory to what I watched.
Hoosiers is a 1986 sports drama directed by David Anspaugh, who did Rudy, might be why Stephen J. likes both movies, in his feature directorial debut. It tells the story of a small-town Indiana high school basketball team and its journey to the state championship finals. It is inspired, in part, by the Milan High School team who won the 1954 state championship against Muncie Central High School. Gene Hackman stars as Norman Dale, a new coach with a spotty past. The film co-stars Barbara Hershey and Dennis Hopper, whose role as the basketball-loving town drunk earned him an Academy Award nomination. Jerry Goldsmith was also nominated for an Academy Award for his score. In 2001, Hoosiers was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. Let's hit the trailer.
We're going to be a tough team to beat. Now you come along for the ride.
A tough coach. He turned losers into fighters. Enemies into friends.
I play, Coach stays. He goes, I go.
Challenges into triumphs.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, in my book, we're going to be winners.
Hoosiers. It'll go straight to your heart. Rated PG.
Starts tomorrow at selected theaters near you.
In 1951, Principal Cletus Summers hires his old friend Norman Dale as head basketball coach of Hickory High School's 7-player team. The townspeople, passionate about basketball, are disappointed that Hickory's best player, Jimmy Chitwood, has left the team following the death of the previous coach, who had been a surrogate father to Jimmy. At a meet and greet, Norman tells the townspeople he used to coach college basketball. The next day, fellow teacher Myra Fleener warns Norman not to recruit Jimmy, whom she is encouraging to seek a future away from Hickory.
So, Gene, film opens up. And one thing this film does very well, Hoosiers, it sets you up. You're back there. It's 1950. It is small town Indiana hoops. And they do a lot of establishing shots of like cars on the road, some farms. You see a lot of like empty streets in a small town. And you can practically smell this old gym. You can feel the crowd breathing down the neck of the players, and you see the whole town, how they live and die with these games and these teams. But the truth is, 1950s basketball, this is not exactly the modern day NBA. This isn't razzle dazzle and one, the fast paced game that we watch today. There's no 3-pointers. There's no dunking. This is like an SNL skit of like the 50s where dudes are wearing Converse and they're passing the ball like 30 times. Like, here we go. We're going to go around the hoop with the Knickerbockers. Oh, there's passes. Schmitty passes it to Wilson. Wilson passes it to Thompson. Thompson back. And it's another layup. And here they go. Them boys are really, it's 15-17 in the third quarter. It's such a boring game. Yes, it's the history of it. But when you put it side to side to even, I would say like the WNBA today, it's a snoozer.
Getting back to your point about the setting, though, I'm at that age now where I think back 30 years ago with some nostalgia, and this must have felt amazing in 1986 to see the 50s, right? Like if it's like me looking back on the 90s,
right?
And if they just show my hometown or my small town in the 90s, but they get it all right. The cars are there, the leaves are blowing across, you see people working in their fields, and fall is coming, and everybody's hyped up for the season. They get it all right. But like many movies we watched recently, there is this small town lie. In Pure Country, we got everyone pumped about living in Maypearl, Texas. Maypearl, Texas, where people are losing their farms. Drunks are refusing to take no for an answer. Grandmas are left alone with no support network. In Hoosiers, we have this beautiful town, this small town full of adults obsessed with high school basketball, and they are all up in one another's business. Myra lays down this line to Norman. Total bullshit. She says, people's private affairs stay pretty much their own. What? In a small town? No. You want a place where people mind their own business? New York City is where people mind their own business, not in Hickory, Indiana.
Do you think this film was meant to romanticize the small town, the 50s, Hickory? Because it does two things simultaneously, right? It shows us this is the good old days. It's kind of the origin of the sport and of the team and how this is pure. But at the same time, you have Coach Dale come in and he questions a lot of the people in town. He questions what they're doing. So I can't tell because the men in the town, this high school basketball team, it's not entertainment. This is their sense of pride. This is their sense of identity. They live through their sons playing the game. The same way that people today, maybe who like are a fan of, like I've made fun of Alabama fans or like college football fans who've never attended the university. It's a kind of attachment that's powerful for people who live maybe a sad, isolated life that isn't what they dreamed of. You think about the Bruce Springsteen song, Glory Days. It's a guy in a bar singing about the glory days of playing sports. At the same time, this sport holds the community together, their identity, and it's their success, and it's what they live through. So I don't know if it's romanticizing it or also showing how sad it can be at the same time.
It's a double-edged sword. I follow Premier League soccer, but I also support USL soccer here at home. I think it's important, no matter what the big league teams are out there, you got to support your local guys. It's the same reason why I have an issue with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law grew up in Chicago and then Arizona and lives in Arizona. His teams are the Chicago Bulls, the Dallas Cowboys, the Dodgers. It's about bandwagoneering. It's about going to mass market. It's about going to what's big. He doesn't follow the Diamondbacks, doesn't follow the Cardinals, doesn't follow the Suns. When I was living in Lima, Ohio, I understood why people there supported the high school football teams of their local towns, because that's what they had. They didn't have an NHL team. They didn't have a major league team. But like I said, double-edged sword, they also were all huge Ohio State Buckeyes fans, despite not having gone to the university. Why? It's the bandwagoneering part of it, right? And so I think there's nothing wrong with cheering for your high school team if that's the only team your talent's got. But the obsession, it seemed like these guys didn't have jobs. All they did was talk about the team, follow the team around, gather up, vote on who's going to coach the team. Get a life.
You know, this is what it was like.
Oh, yeah.
It's partially like that today, but I did not question the authenticity of the obsession and what Coach Dale was dealing with coming into this small town.
At the first practice, Norman dismisses Buddy Walker for rudeness, and his teammate Whit Butcher walks out in protest. Norman begins drilling the others, Raid, Merle, Everett, Strap, and Ollie. Whit later apologizes to the coach and rejoins the team. During the season opener, Raid disobeys Norman's instructions and is benched. In another game, he starts a brawl that ends in Cletus having a heart attack. Norman loses his temper on court and gets ejected from 2 games, testing the patience of the townspeople.
So the movie, as much as it's about, they call it Hoosiers, and it's about the team of Hickory, I don't think there's a doubt that this is the story of Coach Dale. It's told through him. He's coming to town, his past in Ithaca. He punched one of his players. He was banned. So it is about him as much as it is about Hickory and basketball in the 50s. And I'm expecting him that there's going to be something that he's done. He's going to come into town and he is going to lead this small group of young men. He is going to be a savant. He's going to come up with a system, a solution, something that will make the difference. And I've admittedly said, I'm not a basketball guru. I know very little about the game past like the 90s and into the early 2000s. But we were introduced to him. He comes out. He's got to fight against the local towns, the fathers. And the first thing he does, he institutes the 4-pass rule. And it's the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Dale is in practice and he keeps yelling, minimum 4 passes, minimum 4 passes. He doesn't just do it in practice. He goes in the game, he's yelling out loud to everybody. Hey, everybody, remember, minimum 4 passes, minimum 4 passes. They're passing up layups. They're passing up open shots. And I get that they're trying to teach discipline. They're trying to show, hey, patience. But this did not make me feel like Coach Dale had some system or he was going to make a difference. And I, in a million years, this is just the dumbest thing. Other than getting Jimmy to come back, I don't know what Coach Dale did. Anybody, Shooter, if he stayed sober, might have gotten them to the state championship.
Oh, ye of little faith, Big D. Do you remember my first season of fantasy baseball?
No, I'm sorry. I don't focus on your team.
The first Thursday that rolled around, I dumped a ton of incredible bats and incredible pitchers because they had the day off. I didn't realize Thursday is the day that they travel a lot.
Yeah,
I thought to compete in fantasy baseball, you need a full roster every day. So I dumped my guys to pick up any guy who had a game that day. That was short-term thinking. Got to keep my roster full. Instead of long-term thinking, which I know about fantasy baseball now, it's some guys are going to have their up days and their down days, but the quality guys are going to come through in the end until you know they've got a problem. Norman, he knows his guys aren't the most athletic. He knows that they're not the tallest in Indiana. So he needs ball movement to get those open shots. He's not trying to win that first game. He doesn't care if the other team hears what he's saying. He's instilling a tactic that's going to pay off later. He wants to make those playoffs.
But that's made up, right? That's part of, we're going to get to what's real. And the coach did not come up with this 4-pass rule. That was put in for dramatic consequences. That's not an actual like basketball strategy.
Well, I'm making a case for it anyway.
Okay. Well, you know what? You've come back from your first embarrassing season.
Yeah.
You were energetic and excited, and that led you to a dark place. But now you're doing much better this season, so I'll give you some leeway.
Yeah, not to jinx it, but I think I'm like 18 games ahead. First place.
I wish I could be there.
See? Lessons learned. And like you said, Big D, this movie is about Gene Hackman. This movie is about Norman Dale. And Gene Hackman's incredibly charming. And this character, Norman Dale, he illustrates a lesson that I often forget. If I took anything away from this movie, it was the reminder that when you're in control and you have the power, you don't need to be dramatic. Men, if you're listening out there, when you're in control and you have the power, you don't need to be dramatic. I am pretty high up the chain in my day job. If I want to deny somebody resources, I can do that. If I want to make life great for them, I can do that. There are certain things at my company that only I can make happen. I hold those cards. So why would I bother yelling? Why would I bother trying to intimidate people or bully people? I do it, but I shouldn't. I should be an adult. I should know I have the control. I have the power. Be like coach. Somebody's going to be difficult. Okay, you're off the team. You're not going to listen to me? Okay, you're on the bench. He recognizes his power. He uses it to his advantage. And it's that Gene Hackman confidence just coming through.
Saying less, staying in control. And I don't think it's the way he deals with the players. It's the way he deals with like George, who says, "Hey, I'll be your assistant coach. I'll bridge your, the time, and and he starts running practices. And coach doesn't take this as a threat to him. Instead, he basically ushers him off the court confidently, quietly, and he grabs the reins and gets these local dads to give him the respect he deserves. And yes, I think silence and patience and control will help you in any phase of your life.
With Cletus laid up, Norman asks former Hickory player Wilbur Shooter Flatch, Everett's alcoholic father, to be his assistant coach, with the requirement that Shooter be sober during all games and practices. Shooter agrees on the condition that Norman not get ejected from any more games. When disgruntled townspeople decide to vote on dismissing Norman, Myra uncovers years-old information about Norman hitting a player and being banned from coaching college basketball. She keeps it to herself, but the town votes to fire Norman anyway. Jimmy Chitwood arrives and announces he will rejoin the team, but only if Norman remains as coach. A new vote is taken, and the residents overwhelmingly choose to keep their coach. So our fine commissioner, Stephen J., alluded to this movie sticking to some tropes, and it might have hit different in 1986, but in 2025, Hoosiers feels very paint by numbers. They've got the fish out of water coach who's going to make a big difference, the jaded woman who falls in love, the wunderkind who needs a father figure, the town drunk who's a basketball savant, the stoic strongman ally that brings everybody in line, the jealous nemesis. We all knew what the pieces were on the board. We knew exactly how the movie would play out before it even got rolling. There are no surprises. There's no invention. There's no complexity. It is, by all means, a blueprint movie.
You also missed there the Rudy type, smaller underdog.
Oh, Ollie,
the misfit player. Then you also forgot about the religious player, the one who summonses the Lord's strength in order to help win. So you forgot those two. So, Gene, I'm going to give kudos to whoever did the closed caption, because the vote comes up and George says, whoever wants to let the coach go, say aye. So the whole audience goes, aye. And he says, those who do not want to say nay. Closed caption says, 2 men say nay. So they went so detailed to tell us that 2 members of the community voted nay. It's like man 1, nay. Man 2, nay. It's the details that I really love, Gene. And the movie, like you said, it follows so many of the tropes, so many of the expected formulas. But I kept waiting for like the montage. Where is the training montage? Where are they running like the 3-man weave? Where are they doing layup lines? Where are they doing like suicides? Like, you run the lines back and forth. I want some odd training that he's doing to get these boys fit. And for most of the movie, Hoosiers, it plays it straight. There's no montages, no quick cuts, no sports highlights. But the second Jimmy comes back, we get a 20-plus minute montage. It throws every trope together at once. We get Hickory wins big, Shooter, so he's up and down, the picket fence play, the community haircuts. When they win, they mark the streak. They got, I think, 10 straight. Then we get a sharp contrast in pacing. It's like the movie realized we're running out of time. We need to get from this beginning of the season. They're struggling. And the montage just ran, Gene. It kept going. It ended, and they were already like the conference finals. They were into the playoffs. I was like, how did we get here?
You mentioned that whole 20-minute montage started the second Jimmy returns. Did it bother you that we never learned why Jimmy came back or why he insisted that Norman be the coach? Like, we know nothing about this kid. We know that his mentor, his father figure, the old coach, died. Jimmy decides he's not playing basketball anymore. He's just out there shooting hoops by himself, whatever. Myra Fleener comes by. She's like, leave him alone. We want him to get out of town. He's got a chance at an academic scholarship. Norman's like, cool, man. Like, you got it. If he wants to play, he can play, but he's going to play for himself, not because I'm asking him to. We've got our team. The kids who are out here. And I really liked the way Norman approached that too with the student body, which was like, hey, the guys out here are the ones that are working. These are the guys that you're cheering for. If somebody's not on this team, they're not on this team. But they get Jimmy back. We never get to see a change in him, what his thinking is, what's going on. He's just a plot device.
Jimmy never rallies the troops. He never talks to the team. He never lets us know his motivation, like you said, Gene. But then there's so many other little moments that I think this will come back. When one of the players there's a fight, he gets thrown into the glass case, he cuts his shoulder. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be some drama. Will he get suspended? Will this be a serious injury? No, they do a Miyagi moment. Hey, patch him up. Then all of a sudden, later at the end, he gets hit in it, but it really doesn't affect them. You think that when Shooter shows up drunk later, that's going to devastate the team emotionally? No, they just forget about it until they find him like E.T., alone in the stream, screaming for help with a shotgun. None of these things, they kept laying them out there where you think this is going to be the moment of redemption. This is going to be the moment of turning the corner. And it just doesn't happen. It was like they kept planting these things and only a few bared fruit.
Well, after Jimmy's return, the reinvigorated Huskers rack up a series of wins. To prove Shooter's value to the team, Norman intentionally gets ejected from a game. This forces Shooter to devise a play that helps Hickory win on a last-second shot. Shooter also regains the respect of his son, Everett. Despite a setback when he relapses, the team advances through the state tournament with Jimmy's strong performance. Unsung players such as Short Ollie and devoutly religious Strap also contribute. Big D, this is where we get Shooter's redemption arc and then eventual failure as he relapses into being a drunk. I got to ask if taking a chance on Shooter was worth it. He was doing fine giving Norman scouting reports on the opposition and recommending strategies. He didn't have to be sober to do that. He could just show up and be like, hey, you guys are playing Frontage Oaks or whatever. This is the lowdown on that team. Did they have to put him on the staff? He doesn't want to be sober. The man owns a shotgun and lives alone. Do you really want to put that kind of pressure on him? Hey, man, you got to sober up. You got to be on the team. You got to be on the court in front of tons of people. And by the way, I'm going to abandon you in a high pressure situation. I know that Norman is supposed to be this redeemer who is also seeking his own redemption, but you can't smack and yell a person out of alcoholism. That's not how it works.
What sign did Shooter give Coach Dale that he was ready for redemption? Zero. I mean, his son is on the team and his son tells him, hey, my dad doesn't deserve it. My dad, he'll fuck it up. My dad will somehow ruin this. Believe your player. You've only got 7 players plus Ollie. Why are you alienating this poor boy and having his drunk, father who's isolated himself in a cabin? Why are you forcing this? It makes No sense. And maybe it's because I've seen the movie and I know that Shooter falls off the wagon and Shooter's going to stumble out onto the court and embarrass his son and the team. But when they make the conference finals, I could care less about Hickory. I don't give a shit that they're winning. I'm not paying attention to the shots. I'm thinking, where is drunk ass Shooter going to stumble on the court and embarrass himself? I know it's going to happen, and I'm stressed. I'm thinking about his son. His son is sitting there, and he looks at his father on the bench when he's like, "Hey, Dad, do you want to come up with a play?" And Dad he's sweaty, and he hunches over, and he cowers, and he just shrivels. And I'm like, fucking get Shooter off the goddamn, get him off the bench. You know he's going to crash and burn at the worst possible time. And I kept holding my breath, and it wasn't because of the score, Gene. I knew Hickory would win, but I kept waiting until that drunk-ass Shooter would stumble upon the court, rambling and in complete incoherent nonsense. And this gets me to a shocking discovery, Gene. And Steven mentioned Academy Award nomination for Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper is an accomplished actor. We have loved him before in plenty of his roles, but I don't get this one. Shooter in Hoosiers, it feels like a parody. The way he stumbles upon the court, it's laughable. It's as if he has never seen a true alcoholic or a drunk. It's not tragic. It's not a scene of emotional weight that his son looks over in disappointment. Instead, we get a scene where he's in bed, sweaty and shaky, and he's whispering, "I'm cold, Coach. Hold me. I'm cold." Come on. It's like Will Ferrell playing a drunk. Instead of being heartbreaking, it's embarrassing. Dennis Hopper overdoes it, and it was such a disappointing moment because I thought this would have impact emotionally. Instead, it's a parody of an alcoholic, like somebody who'd never seen a true alcoholic suffer.
What's odd about that is, according to some reports, Dennis Hopper, at the height of his drug and alcohol use, dude was doing 3 grams of cocaine a day, plus drinking a case of beer and a half a gallon of rum. That was daily consumption. They said that he finally got sober. Again, I don't know the veracity of this, but this is on multiple accounts saying that he eventually got sober because he looked at the telephone lines outside of his house and they were talking to him. This is in the late 80s. So at this time, he was a drinker. I can't believe that he fucked it up this badly. And speaking of the Academy Award nomination, put yourself in the shoes of the other nominees that year. You got Dennis Hopper as Shooter and Hoosier stumbling around, giving the most over-the-top version of an alcoholic against Willem Dafoe and Tom Berenger in Platoon. Willem Dafoe and Tom Berenger in Platoon. And somehow, with that crowded field, Michael Caine won for a movie called Hannah and Her Sisters, which is a Woody Allen movie that actually sounds quite good. The cast includes Mia Farrow, Barbara Hershey, again, another Barbara Hershey movie, Carrie Fisher, Max von Sydow, Daniel Stern, John Turturro, and the debut of Louis Black. I'd watch that.
Why can't you just let this scene go on? Instead, you have to throw on another trope. This is dramatic enough. Do we need Ollie? Do we need Rudy on the hard court? Do we need Rudy to come out there? So now in the big game, they have to win. We get the injury. We get one of the guys cuts his shoulder. The bench is depleted. You get the religious guy or whoever it was gets kicked out. And now we've got Ollie. You're up by 3 points. There's about 15 to 16 seconds left. Why are you forcing the ball to Ollie? Why? Ollie dribbles the ball off of his foot on the baseline. The next time down the court, you're throwing the ball to Ollie. I'm questioning Coach Dale, his ability. He should just be saying, hey, guys, do not throw the ball to Ollie. Let's stay away. Let's win it. Instead, the film kept trying to stack on the tropes and the drama to where it just became nonstop, and I couldn't focus on any of them.
I don't want the listeners to confuse our position on youth sports, by the way. I got into a huge thing on Facebook, of all places. there's a clip of Steve Harvey, and he's talking about how if your kids are not good at a sport, don't encourage them to do that sport and don't have them play that sport, which is stupid. In youth sports, the whole idea is to learn, to develop team play, to explore if that's the sport that's right for you. Your body's still developing. You're supposed to be out there learning. And in those cases, all the kids deserve minutes. Winning, losing, that shit doesn't matter. And for all of you out there who are like anti-participation trophy, dude, when I go to a jiu-jitsu World League tournament, win or lose, I'm going home with a free rash guard to show that I participated in that thing. It's a fucking participation trophy. Kids should get those because it shows that I did something. I went and I did that tournament. I participated in a team for a year. They know the difference between that and a first place trophy. They're not stupid. It's cool to say I played soccer for a year and I got this little trophy and I get to put it on my little dresser and it makes me happy. Leave the kids alone, give them the minutes. But this is varsity high school basketball. Careers are on the line. It matters to the team. And there are guys on the team it's their senior year. They deserve their best shot at winning, and putting Shooter on the bench and putting Ollie out there in clutch moments and giving him the ball. That's not what this is about, man. He deserves to be fired.
Yes.
Well, Hickory reaches the championship game in Indianapolis before the largest crowd they've ever seen against the heavily favored South Bend Central Bears. After falling behind, Hickory ties the game with just a few seconds left. Norman calls a timeout and sets up a play where Jimmy will be a decoy for Merle, who will take the last shot. But Jimmy simply says, "I'll make it." Norman nods in approval and sets up a new play for Jimmy. He scores just before the buzzer sounds, securing the victory for Hickory, the smallest school to ever win the Indiana State Championship.
So, Gene, one of the scenes I remembered the most is, Hickory, this small school, this small town. They go to the big city in Indianapolis, and one of the ways that Coach Norman is going to make these kids realize they have a chance is he takes out the measuring tape. And he says, let's measure from the hoop to the ground. That's 10 foot. And let's measure the foul line to the free throw line. It's the same as our gym. See, everybody, it's the same. And he's giving the speech to these kids, and he's giving the breakdown of their opponent, show them they have a chance. And he says, hey, you know what? Number 15, he's averaging 20 a game here. And he's reminding them it's a powerhouse school. Then it clicks in my head, okay, because it immediately kicks out to the real game. And I realized, holy shit, I've not seen a black basketball player this entire movie. He's given the speech like, listen, fellas, you know what? They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. And by golly, yes, there's some black players and they can out jump you and outrun you and outscore you. And frankly, you really don't have any hope. I kept thinking about getting an AI version. Gene Hackman telling the truth. Hey, boys, guess what? Yes, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but the fact that they're black, how did they sugarcoat? I'm not a social justice warrior, folks. Not at all. But how did you cut that part of the story out? This is a huge part of the story. Indiana basketball was segregated until 1942. By 54, black players were participating, but many of the schools, especially small schools like Milan, which is Hickory, they were all white. They had never played teams with black players. So there was a cultural component that you can't just forget about, even though this is the underdog story. You're missing the component to where this is the first time a lot of these small towns had seen African-American players. There was a cultural significance to this that goes beyond David and Goliath. It's an all-white farm team beating a powerhouse with black athletes. At least address it. The movie doesn't even mention it, doesn't even copy it. There was a lot of racism that went on in the stands with signs and people making comments that to not address it made it feel like this is not an accurate telling of the story.
I just don't know how they would wedge that into this feel-good tale. Like, it would just take a very dark turn. It'd be an interesting film if you thought it was going one way and it just takes a hard turn the other way. But I saw the black players and immediately thought, these Hickory boys are so fucked.
Oh, they're fucked.
And sadly, I think that was the intent. I think there was a subtle intent to be like, black players, it wasn't supposed to be like a cultural hurrah or a historic moment. It was like the threat of the black player. And I was 14 years old, I think maybe 15 years old, before the first time I lined up on the offensive line against a black player. I remember the exact game. It was Trevor Brown High School. And I looked up and I went, okay, he's just another player. This guy fucking ran me over. And I was terrified of every single black player after that. Cause I was like, oh God, this is a whole other game. You know, I've been playing in Chandler, Arizona against white and some Latino players, never played against a black player before. I'm not saying they're physically superior, guys. What I'm saying is the first time you get your ass kicked by a person who looks very different from any other player you played for, it takes a toll on you psychologically. It will scar you for a game, if not a season.
I mean, I should have known this was coming. When the coach says, hey, they're starting 5. There's a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". I should have been like, black guy. Black guy.
I don't know. There's a lot of tall white dudes in Indiana and Nebraska, I got to say.
No, not on one team.
Big D, I had some relatively high hopes for this movie when I saw Norman coaching the team through their drills. He's saying, hey, it's not all about shooting. We're going to learn defense and patience and mental toughness and conditioning. We're never going to get outworked by another team. And that's all really good and interesting stuff. But when the movie hit stride, when we got to the actual games, as you said, the coaching seemed reduced to 50% yelling the obvious, pass it 4 times, and 50% arguing with officials. And I imagine every referee in the state of Indiana hated Norman. I haven't had the pleasure, Big D, of watching my kid play a sport. I know you have, but I remember my niece playing varsity basketball and these cringe parents yelling at the ref at a fucking kids game. It's disgusting.
So, Gene, yes. And this comes at an odd time for me. I'm generally, so I still play softball. I have played for years, 20 years. I've won. Anybody out there who plays softball, please, those who don't judge me. I've won multiple worlds. A lot of the open major players who play professionally, friends with, have played with them along the way, the manufacturer teams. I now play 50 and over softball. And in Florida, the top 100 teams are ranked. You play in brackets. So I'm in the top 5 teams. So we play as high levels, 50 and over, as you can. Our team's good. We'll beat most 25, 30-year-old teams. I got thrown out for the first time, Gene, in 20 years this past weekend. I lost my cool. Normally, I'm very friendly. I'm very, very forgiving, but I felt there was an injustice. There was an umpire. Yes, you can make a mistake, but the umpire was egregious in that he stood on principle that he was not going to reverse the call, even though he was told he was wrong by the other umpire. So I came up into a big spot in the last inning. He made a bad call on me on a pitch. The next pitch was even worse. He did not call it illegal. I proceeded to hit an absolute bomb, 450 plus. And as the ball was going over the fence, I turned around and I said, you are a fucking joke. You don't take yourself seriously. You're an embarrassment to the position. He said, you're gone. I said, you should be gone. You should lose your job. You don't care. We come out here for the weekend. We give our best effort, and you're half-ass bullshit. You are a goddamn embarrassment to yourself. I turned around, went in the dugout, got my gear, walked out. The other entire team, I said, gentlemen, it's a pleasure playing with you. You suck, to the home plate umpire, first baseman. I said, you're good. Everyone have a great day. And I walked out. I felt great. First time I'd ever done it. Did it get us anywhere? No.
I would have given a day off of my own life. Like whatever my death date is, I'd take it a day earlier just to have been there for that one game. It must have been magnificent. I'm sure Emma was very proud of you.
No, thankfully, she did not hear me. She was off in the distance, like playing like volleyball and Roblox with another daughter of one of my teammates. But I annihilated it. It was a bomb, 450 plus. And I just walked off. I lit him up. And one of the other guys goes, that was quite eloquent. So even though I said legendarily probably about 45 F-bombs, I never got in the guy's face. I never intimidated him. So I'm hoping I will avoid any kind of suspension. But I don't know if that will happen.
I'm assuming you were significantly bigger than him.
Oh, of course. And I think it was my facial hair, which was what
it's
intimidated
the beard.
Yes. But I hit, I think, 875 on the weekend. I think I had 5 home runs. So I did quite well in 4 games. So.
For those of you who have not seen Big D in a while, he has grown what I would call a conquistador sort of facial hair. And then he went to a Spanish barber and got a very oh God, he's got the ends of his mustache curled.
Ooh,
my goodness. The captain. But yeah, also he's got this very fly haircut. What do they call it with the trim?
Oh, it's not a skin fade or whatever they call that. But when my Spanish barber took out a straight razor, I did get scared.
You look magnificent. I'm sure your sex life has been just
it's
turned up
off
to 11.
The charts. It's caliente.
Oh,
as they would say. But as we get towards the end of the movie here, I'm expecting there's going to be some pinnacle. We've built up. We followed the team since the first time the coach was introduced. We got Jimmy coming back. Gene, they've made it Hickory, small school. They've made it to Indianapolis, 15,000 seat arena. This is going to be a compelling back and forth. And the championship game kicks off. But it's not even close. It looks like the Harlem Globetrotters against the Generals. And then for some reason, the film switches to another montage of nonstop. It's shot, swish, back and forth, layup, swish. The music swelling. There's no tension. I don't know the score. They don't show the scoreboard. You don't get a sense of momentum. You don't know who's winning. The coach calls timeout. You don't see any strategy that turns the tide. Whereas in the natural, in the final game, you go inning by inning. You can sense the drama building to the final moment where Roy Hobbs hits the home run. He hits, and the lights the sparks rain down on the field. Here, I don't know what the fuck's happening. It just feels like at the end, oh, okay, we're at the end. It's a tie score. I don't know how we got here, but it was just a feel-good basket at the end instead of like tension and almost like a release. They won it. None of that happened.
To paint a picture for the listeners, imagine if you were watching like SportsCenter on ESPN and they're like, okay, we're going to take you to the Suns-Lakers game. And instead of showing you key plays and what the score was in those plays, people who fouled out, people who got injured, whatever, they just showed random sets of like 2 minutes at a time of basketball play. And then like you might see the score occasionally, but it's not showing the dynamics of that score. That's what we were watching here. What I couldn't believe is that they let Cletus come to the state championship game in a massive arena. Cletus, if you remember earlier in the season, he has a fucking heart attack. Okay. He has to stay in bed. And that's where Norman goes and gets Shooter as his right-hand man instead. He has a heart condition. It's the 50s. Okay? He's an old man. And they're like, hey, what's a great idea? Let's take him to the state championship game in a 15,000 seat arena in Indianapolis, the biggest place I've ever played. Sounds like a great idea. They're trying to kill Cletus.
But why not have Coach Dale come up with a play? The annexation of Puerto Rico. Yeah. Have him run some play. He runs the damn picket fence again. That's Shooter's specialty. He runs that again at the end. Why not come up with some great solution? A play that maybe, Shooter had like drawn up. This is how we could defend against these much bigger guys that have a fuller roster. And the game ends and Hickory wins, and we see some of the sad players on the other side. Everybody rushes the court, and then boom, empty gym, and the camera focuses on the banner, and we're sitting there, and it pulls in. Then we start hearing Coach Dale, and he's talking with a little voiceover, and then the credits come. I'm like, where is the usual follow-up text? This is a based on real story, based on some actual events. I need to know what happened to Coach next year. Did Coach come back? Did his romance live? Did Jimmy go to college? Did Shooter stay sober? Every sports movie, you got to give us at least some text. Where are they now? And Hoosiers just zooms in on the banner of the team from that year, and we're supposed to not care anymore. And all of a sudden, I had to look, Gene. So anyone out there who's watched this film or hasn't watched this film, I got to tell you the truth of what happens here, okay? So in the real story, the coach, he was not some hardened Navy man who had been fired for punching one of his players. No, he was a 26-year-old guy who came in coaching. This wasn't his first year, but yes, he won. He continued to coach and in the end became a guidance counselor, Gene. And then he passed away in 99. The team, surprise, they never made it to the States again, but they remain one of the biggest underdog stories in American sports. You know, it is still a tiny town. And guess what, Gene? The town still prides themselves on this championship fucking 70 years ago. You know, people still talk about it. Jimmy, it was based on an actual player called Bobby Plump.
That's a way better name than Jimmy Chitwood.
Yes. And Bobby Plump, he went to college. He played for Butler. He scored over 1,000 career points. He didn't make the NBA, but he opened up a restaurant in Indianapolis called Plump's Last Shot. He's still celebrated as a legend in Indiana. In the end, also, there was no shooter, so there was no sobriety for shooter. It was loosely based on what really happened. But in the end, give us some fictitious ending. Hey, coach, he moved on. He found peace. He ended up getting married. Jimmy continued to college. Give us something. How do you just fade to the credits?
Thankfully, I think people in the movie writing biz these days understand that, generally speaking, the true story is more interesting and makes for a better story, right? I would love to see a young coach in this town who takes these boys to the championship, and that's the big deal. And maybe big D, you have a little bit of the impact that has on the town afterward. Instead, we get this scene where, like you said, the camera's panning, it's closing in on a little boy, he's shooting hoops in the empty gym, and then it goes up to the photo of the team that's hung prominently on the wall. I thought there was some significance to this, a twist. I kept scanning the scene. I rewatched it multiple times. I'm paying attention to the little boy. Who is he? The walls, what's on them? The court, the team photo. I was looking for something dark or something uplifting or some Easter egg. Instead, there's this tacked on scene with a voiceover from Gene Hackman. I love you guys. And I was left wondering why.
Yeah, you think of like The Natural. It's Roy Hobbs playing catch. And then it fades to him having like playing catch with his son. I thought the boy was going to turn out to be Jimmy's son, and we'd get an older version of Jimmy coaching the team. He'd come back to bring them to glory again, but nothing. It's just gone. And without the internet back then, I guess maybe we had to write our own stories of future glory, or maybe the story that you'd believe, hey, this is Larry Bird. This is based on Larry Bird's life. No. It's all fiction.
Have you seen the photo of Larry Bird absolutely shit-faced when the Dream Team was playing the Olympics?
No.
Okay, so Larry Bird, if you remember that year, he was like retirement, but he was still on the team. So he was like, it was almost like a vacation for him, right? He played a couple minutes, but he didn't, like, he wasn't really expected to do much. He spent a lot of the games, if you remember, like he was lying like face down on the bench because of his bad back, just to like loosen his back up, whatever. But, you know, Jordan was there. Patrick Ewing was there. Like they had shit covered, right? But there's this great photo where it was the night before a game. Michael Jordan played table tennis against Charles Barkley and like cleaned him out. Like just, they were paying for like dollars, and he just bankrupt Charles Barkley. Meanwhile, in the background, if you look closely, there's like a bunch of children's toys on the ground, and there's Larry Bird holding a drink, just trashed off his ass. He played 17 minutes the next game. And that is also a movie that I would watch. Why have they not done a Dream Team movie? Not a documentary, like an actual movie.
Probably because it would destroy the mystique of the Dream Team. Larry probably wasn't drunk, but he was probably on like all kinds of muscle relaxers and painkillers. You could have given him 2 or 3 drinks and he would have been asleep on the floor underneath the ping pong table.
Well, now's the time in the podcast we give our Shat score. For Hoosiers, the Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when God wants you on the floor. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's goblin visiting time. I'll go first. Big D, maybe in 1986, this movie was electrifying or heartwarming, but this doesn't even hold up against 2000s prestige TV. It's that level of quality. It's predictable, it's convenient, and really hinges on the late Gene Hackman, the greatest of all Lex Luthors, who does a great job. I can't say the same for everybody else, particularly Dennis Hopper. I'm going to go 3 wipes.
I'm really shocked at this. This is up there when you think of great sports films. And it is just not. The story's not there. It's not compelling. You don't care about the characters. You remember the little moments, but overall, I think I got to go 3.25 wipes. It's pretty bad. It's not The Natural. It's not Rocky 3 or 4. It's not even Vision Quest. It's not even All the Right Moves. It's not even The Sandlot or even Jerry Maguire. It's not Rudy. It's not The Mighty Ducks. I think we need to, Gene, if we're going to get to a good sports film, please, somebody commission Varsity Blues. Ooh. That is so long overdue. Call-in Dinosaurs, James Vanderbeek. We got a young James Caan's son playing Skeeter, I think his name was, the wide receiver. That's a film we got to watch. But this, 3.25 wipes, and I think that's being kind.
All right, with my 3 wipes and your 3.25 wipes, Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 3.125 wipes for Hoosiers.
So, Gene, with a score of 3.125 wipes, that now ties this in the 272 spot with Police Academy, Uncle Buck, Dark City, and Smokey and the Bandit, slightly better than Armageddon, Last Boy Scout, and Spies Like Us.
Wow. Smokey and the Bandit at 3.125, huh?
I gave it a 2.5. I think you gave it 2.5. And then King B came in with a 4.
Wow. Wait a minute, am I right?
I think there's got to be something from his youth. Did he watch that at a point that he was impressionable?
You know, he hates Miley Cyrus because she reminds him of
Billy Ray?
No, of women that hung around his mom and dad, like trashy Arizona hee-haw women. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's that sort of a trigger for him. I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't understand the magic that is Burt Reynolds. But anyway, Stephen J., congratulations on your fantasy football win. Great luck to you in the upcoming season. And thanks so much for choosing Hoosiers. Maybe next year, if you win again, you can give us Varsity Blues. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gee, next week, Rudy is an unscrupulous car salesman who aspires to become a politician. Rudy works for the nice but ineffective auto dealer Luke. When Luke dies, Rudy takes over the lot, but he faces stiff competition from the scheming Roy Fuchs, who wants the brothers' business for himself. In order to get more customers, Rudy and Roy each devise ridiculous promotions to gain the upper hand. Commissioned by Chris G., came out in 1980, and Robert Zemeckis directed. Surprise, but I remember this for a lot of the commercials and the very end of the film. I don't remember what comes in between, but the very end, I remember.
Big D, I just wrapped watching it and immediately called my cousin Pej. He said it was one of his favorite movies of all time. And just started firing back quotes. I don't think he's seen this movie in 30 years, was firing back quotes. We started shooting each other just photos of scenes of this movie, including when they blow up inflation and blame it on the Iranian students. I got to tell you, I'm very excited for this one. Thank you so much, Chris, for the commission.
It's a mile of used cars, correct?
It's a mile of used cars. That's right. Yep. Shot in Arizona, in Mesa and Superior, Arizona. A lot of the sites in the film, including the Maricopa County Courthouse, I recognize them immediately. Some beautiful shots of Arizona. This is one to watch before you listen to the podcast, guys, because we don't want to spoil anything for you. Well, thank you, Chris, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Stephen J., for commissioning Hoosiers. Thank you to all our commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. You should follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Also use the SpeakPipe feature. Just go to shatpod.com on any page on any device. You can also support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. We are everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
At last, a controversial new motion picture that dares to deal with a serious contemporary problem which every man, woman, and child must come to grips with at least once in their lifetime.
Make them like this anymore. Why don't you go ahead and sit inside? Go ahead. There's new upholstery, only 27,000 miles, and we just gave the engine a complete overhaul yesterday. Go ahead, kick her over. Isn't that the quietest engine you've ever heard in your life?
Used cars, rolling off the blocks this summer into a theater near you.
Hey, Stan, trust me, huh? Happy motoring, Stan.
Trust me.
Trust me.
Trust me.
Trust me. Hey. Trust me. Hey, come on. Trust me.